the presentation of your friend. Okay, some of you here will give a presentation. Okay, so let's begin on the continuation of our lecture. Okay, for international air transportation, it's a big business. Even during the time of pandemic, it's a big business. If you have already followed the news, okay, let me give you one example. Last year, Apple has released a new iPhone, okay, the iPhone 12 series with the like 12 mini, 12 Pro, and 12 Pro Max, all four of them. And of course, with the iPhone, with the value of the iPhone, with the weight of the iPhone, everybody knows that Apple will use air shipment to ship between one place to the others. Even from the headquarters to the distribution center, even from the distribution center, regional distribution center to each country, for example, from China to Thailand. Okay, they always use air transportation. They don't use ocean transportation at all because of the value, because of the weight of the iPhone. Okay, so this is a big business. But with Apple, even during the pandemic, because last year in September, Apple has released iPhone 12 series, which we know that pandemic starts at March of last year. But in September, Apple has released the iPhone 12 series, and it was one of the most sales iPhone of all time. It has the highest sales of all time, which means I'm not talking about the marketing or anything here, but let's focus on air transportation. It reflects something in air transportation that even during the pandemic, even in the pandemic, air transportation has also played an important role in international shipment, especially for those small product, light product, but expensive product, like tech product, technology-based product, electronics product, or the perishable products. What is perishable product? Products that can be rotten very easily. We're talking about foods like the salmon, beef, pork, chicken. Those are the products that, for example, Wagyu beef that a lot of Thai people love to eat. We had to import them from Japan. So what is the best way to import those Wagyu beef in Thailand? We use air transportation. We don't use ocean transportation because it takes too long. And the import of vaccines from one place to the others, the transportation of vaccine from one place to the others, most of the time we use air transportation. But one case that is quite interesting, that the transportation of Pfizer vaccine from the US to Laos. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the transportation of vaccine, Pfizer vaccine from the US to Laos, they use air transportation to Suvarnabhumi Airport. And then they use truck to transport those vaccines from Thailand to Laos. So somehow we use the combination between one transportation to the others. But most of the time, for those perishable products, we use air transportation. For example, from US to Thailand, it's like 10,000 miles. We use air transportation. But from Thailand to Laos, which is shorter distance, we use trucks to transport. We have refrigerated trucks that can handle this minus 70 degrees Celsius. Okay. So those are the importance of air transportation, especially during the pandemic. And don't think that during the pandemic, people will buy less, because it has shown with the statistics from Apple that one of the highest sales model of iPhone was iPhone 12, which was released last year during the pandemic. Okay, so air transportation has played an important role in two things. First, in the pandemic, we move a lot of vaccines from one place to the others. And most of the time we use air transportation. Second, even for electronics products, there's a demand for that. There's a demand for that. And most of the time electronics products are being transported by air. Okay. So a lot of things happen. A lot of things are going on in this pandemic era. Okay. So let's come back to our slide about international air transportation. There are two service options. There are two types of carriers that we are talking about. The first one is called combination carrier. Combination carrier is actually regular passenger airlines. For example, Emirates Airline, Cathay Pacific, Thai Airways. They use regular passenger airlines and carry cargo at the belly of the aircraft, where they usually carry the luggage. That's why they charge you very expensive for your luggage, because they want to preserve, because those airlines want to preserve those valuable space for freight transportation. For example, if you overweight your luggage for just like 10 kilograms, they're going to charge you like a lot of money. Okay, so they load the cargo or freight into the belly of the aircraft. But those type of airlines also have cargo plane. For example, Emirates Airline also have cargo planes that are dedicated for cargo only. Thai Airways also have cargo planes that are being dedicated to cargo only. But once they use the combination of the freight and passenger altogether, we call them combination carrier. And we have another type of carrier, which is called air cargo carriers, which are the carriers that exclusively carry cargo only, freight only. Okay. They provide scheduled service, okay, like the DHL Airlines, FedEx Airline, UPS Airlines, and a lot of those carriers are integrated carrier, are being called integrated carrier. They also provide intermodal service, okay, intermodal service by combining other modes of transportation to air transportation, okay, like UPS, like FedEx, that you know, okay. So equipment types, okay. We have air freighter, which is actually cargo only. Okay, air freighters are cargo only. Okay, move freight only. They use the roller deck as a floor, inside floor of the airplane, with specially designed container for airplane. We call it ULD or unit load device. I will show you the picture in the next slide. Okay, don't worry. And then we have passenger airplanes. Passenger airplane, as you know, everybody has flown in passenger airlines before, so you know. And they have the area at the belly that are dedicated for luggage, and they use that area to transport freight also. I remember that I have already given you an example of the Thai Airways that fly from Korea to Thailand. I have talked to a staff in Thai Airways, and they told me that there were so many flights between Seoul and Bangkok. And one of the reasons that they have so many flights, they had so many flights between Seoul and Bangkok. Of course, one reason is because the demand of traveling between Seoul and Bangkok has gone up very dramatically in the past years before the pandemic, of course. But one more reason is Korean fruits are being very popular in Thailand and in this region. Korean fruits are being very popular in this region. And they use the belly of the airplanes to carry Korean fruits from Korea to Southeast Asia via Thailand using Thai Airways. The staff told me, the staff from Thai Airways even told me that even you fly an empty passenger plane with no passenger at all, Thai Airways can also make profit out of the space in the belly by transporting strawberries only. So passenger airplanes plays an important role in international freight transportation also, because one reason is because they have very frequent schedule. Of course, we're talking about pre-pandemic. We're talking about before pandemic. But think about this. After pandemic, what is going to happen? Everything is going back to normal. And things may go back to normal like you have seen before. So you should learn whatever happened before the pandemic. So after you graduate, when things are going back to normal, then you would know what is going on in the world. Okay, so passenger airplanes also plays an important role in international transportation because they use the space that were being designed for luggage to transport like fruits and vegetables from one country to the others. Okay, and then we have very strange type of airplane. We call it combi airplane. Okay, combi airplane is not popular anymore, but they are still being used in some very limited route. It's the airplane that can that are being designed to be both passenger airlines and freight air transportation, which is quite strange anyway. Okay, let me show you the picture of the ULD. This is called ULD, or unit load device, and the floor, you can see the wheel on the floor is called roller deck. Okay, here is called ULD, or unit load device. Okay, those are the area, those are the devices that are being designed to fit in the airplane. This is the example of combi aircraft. Okay, half of them is passenger. Half of them are empty, being designed for freight transportation. Freight transportation. Now let's talk about the rate structure. Okay, they have high variable cost in proportion to fixed costs. Okay, one thing that is quite unique about air transportation is they charge you based on weight. But think about this: if they charge you based on weight, okay, weight structure. Okay, let me call it weight. Okay. Think about this. When they charge you, if they only charge you based on weight only, if you compare two things, one box of textbook, one box of textbooks, maybe weight 30 kilograms. On the other hand, we have one box of cotton, may weight only 2.5 kilograms. And that's a big problem. And that's a big problem because those boxes are the same size. Those boxes are the same size. These two boxes are the same size. What would happen? What would happen if the airline only charge based on weight? So one box of textbook, 30 kilograms, 30 kilograms. So airlines will have to carry 12 boxes of cotton in order to get the same amount of money as the one box of textbooks. But remember one thing, that space in the aircraft is very expensive. Space in the aircraft is very expensive. But airlines are not stupid. They are not stupid. They would not do that. They would not charge you the same price for one box or 12 boxes. Even they weight the same. So they have the concept of dimensional weight. They have the concept of dimensional weight. What is dimensional weight? When airlines calculate the price to charge you for freight transportation, they would calculate the charge based on, first, calculate the charge based on weight. Two, based on dimensional weight. We call it DIM, dimensional weight. And they would select whichever has higher price, and they charge you. So let me give you an example of dimensional weight. Okay, let me give you an example of dimensional weight. Okay. If one box of cotton, okay, weight 2 kilograms, okay, for the sake of calculation, weight 2 kilograms. And usually airlines would charge $10 per kilograms, okay, would charge $10 per kilogram. If you use the regular weight rate, you would have to pay only $20 for this, right? But if the box has dimension of 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10 inch, multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10 inch, we calculate dimensional weight by calculate the volume of the box. First, calculate volume of the box, which is 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10, and then divided by 139, which we will have 1000 divided by 139, which will be equal to 7.2 dimensional weight kilograms, 27.2 dimensional kilograms. Eventually, we will have to pay $72, and airlines will choose whichever is more expensive and charge you. Any question here? Any question at this point? Again, basically, they will calculate dimensional weight by calculate the volume of the box and then divide it by dimensional factor. In this case, if the unit is inches, it will be equal to 139. And they will charge you based on that dimensional weight. Any question at this point? All right, no question. Very good. So you all understand it. Okay, very good. And then let's talk about current issue in air transportation. Okay. Nearshoring and onshoring trends. Okay, the first one happened with the policy of Donald Trump. Okay, he would like to how do I call trade protection and nearshoring and onshoring trends. It begins with Donald Trump's policy to have the problem with China and move all the manufacturing facilities back to the US. So it may reduce the number of air cargo shipment from from China to the US. Okay, but eventually it may or may not be successful. Okay. Next is ancillary services. Ancillary means helping the service that is helping the customers in freight movement. Okay. First, it's called international freight forwarder. Okay. Why do we need helping service? Because sometimes it is very difficult to do all the paperwork and prepare for the export or prepare for the import of the products. There are services that help importer and exporter. First, international freight forwarder. You may have heard about it. It's called freight forwarder. Okay. A lot of time when you want to export and when you want to import anything, you would need to use freight forwarder because most of the time you cannot do it by yourself unless you're a really big company. I mean, I have used freight forwarder all the time because the freight forwarder will help the exporter or the importer transport their goods. They are specialized in some area. Basically, we can think about them as travel agents. They can consolidate freight going into one destination, and it would allow international freight forwarder to negotiate lower rate than individual customers. Especially they can help paperwork and insurance and some warehouse service. Especially when you have to deal with any government agency in Thailand, it is quite difficult to deal with them. Okay, they are not very easy to talk with, and there's a lot of paperwork that you have to complete. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork that you have to complete, and using international freight forwarder will help you a lot. You pay fees, and then they'll do the rest for you. Another type of ancillary service is called NVOCC, or non-vessel owning common carrier. They provide service at a container level. Okay. Basically, this company, NVOCC, will book a container on the ship on regular basis. Basically, they will book like 10 or 20 containers. Since they book the whole container, they will get low price. And they will resell those space in the container to other less than container load customers. And they make money by combining goods from multiple customers into a single load to fill a container. For example, if you have just like 3 boxes to send to London, for example, you have just 3 boxes to send to London. The Ocean carrier may charge you $100 for that. But NBOCC, since they bought the space for the whole container, they may charge you cheaper because they can combine load with the others. They may charge you just $75 or something because they can combine load with the others. Okay. And then the last type of helping service or ancillary service is export packer. Okay, export packer provide the works to ensure that product arrive safely by using the packing materials that are protective and also eco-friendly and also improve space utilization to prevent theft. Okay. The last step is to clear custom. Okay. There are two categories here: intercontinental and intracontinental. Intercontinental means between continent. Intracontinental means within the same continent. Okay. As I told you before, since the beginning of this chapter, for intracontinental, if we are talking about between neighboring countries, we use direct move. But if it's not between neighboring countries, it may involve indirect move. It depends. Okay, it depends. International gateways, seaport. This picture shows you the number of containers that being loaded and unloaded in each seaport in the world, each popular seaport in the world. Okay. You can see that in Southeast Asia, Singapore is the top. Okay, 31.6 TEU. Okay. So the ownership and types of seaports. Okay. By now, you should know the functions of seaport. Okay. There are two types of seaports in terms of management. The first type is called landlord port. Landlord port is the government owns the land and then build the wharf, will build the facilities, and then lease the space out to private sector to operate. This is landlord ports. The second one is called operating ports. Operating ports is government owns everything. Basically, government owns everything. Okay. They owns the land. They also operate it. Okay. Seaport infrastructure. So what kind of infrastructure that you need to know? Okay. The ship needs to know the infrastructure of the port. Otherwise, they will not know whether the port is big enough for their ships. First, the depth of water. Because big ship needs deep water. They need to know the turn radius, whether the ship can turn or not. And then freight handling capacity. They need to know the ability to quickly load and unload the cargo to avoid time-consuming unloading. Those seaports should have their own cranes. I mean, everywhere, every seaport has its own crane, but how many cranes are we talking about? Can they handle big ship like Panamax ship? Do they have intermodal facilities? Then seaport operations, okay. Number 1 to number 3 is export. Number 4 to number 6 is for import. Okay. What are the current issues of the seaport? The first one is the size of the ship. The size of the ships. The size of container ships are getting higher and higher every day because of the demand of international transportation. Number 2 is congestion because so many containers per ship. The ships are getting higher, are getting bigger because they want to carry more containers per ship. Then once the ship docks, it may need more time to unload those containers out of the ship. Okay. And the third problem is labor problem. Since seaport is a labor intensive job, they would have a problem with that. Okay. So airport ownership and types. Okay. First, commercial service airport are the airport that are being used in commercial flights only. The second type of airport is cargo service airport. Is the airport that are being used by cargo planes only. And then we have the third type of airport we call dual purpose airport that can handle both passenger and cargo. And in Thailand, Bangkok Don Mueang and Bangkok Suvarnabhumi, they are dual purpose airports. Dual purpose airports. But some other regional airports, like small airports, like Nan Airport, okay, like Sukhothai Airport. Those airports are being used as a commercial service airport only. But most of the time when we are talking about big international airports like Bangkok Suvarnabhumi or Bangkok Don Mueang, those are being used for dual purpose. Even big airports in the US like JFK or LAX, those are also being used as dual purpose airports, but they operated a little bit different from Thailand's airport. Because in Thailand, Bangkok Don Mueang and Bangkok Suvarnabhumi, they are operating 24 hours in both commercial and cargo service airport. But in some other airports like JFK or LAX, they operate on daytime for commercial, and then at nighttime after 10 p.m. If I remember it correctly, after 10 p.m. they're being used for cargo service airport. So it's a little bit different between in Thailand and other countries. Okay. Infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure. The number and size of the runways. Usually, big airports would have more than one runways. So one plane can land and the other can take off. Originally, Suvarnabhumi has only one runway, but they are now expanding the runway. Okay. So the planes can take off and land at the same time. Okay. And then they have terminals and cargo handling equipment, and then warehouse to protect and store cargo. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but if you have been to the bicycle, how do we call it? The bicycle track near Suvarnabhumi Airport. This bicycle track was located near the warehouse area of Suvarnabhumi Airport to store cargo. Okay. In the operation of airport, it's a little bit less complex than the seaport, but more time sensitive than seaport. Number 1 and number 2 is for export. Number 3 to number 5 are for import. Okay. Remember that air transportation is time sensitive. Time sensitive. Otherwise, customers would not use air transportation, right? So what are the current issue now? Okay, runway and terminal is the problem. Okay, first runway and terminal is the problem due to the larger aircraft. and it has to deal with economic upturn and downturn, plus security issue. Right now, most of international airport in the world are in trouble because people don't travel internationally, so they are in trouble. Okay. And then custom clearance. This slide is solely dedicated for the U.S. custom law, so I will not cover it in the exam. Okay. Custom broker, again, many companies rely on custom broker or the expert to fill the documents to help you with the import of things, of products. Okay. And this is the summary. And we have a homework for you. Okay, we have a homework for you. You can find it in the LMS. Okay, and then I believe today we have the case study that you need to give the presentation. Okay, so group 10.
Sorry, do you see the slide?
Yes, I can see your slide.
Okay, thanks.
So good afternoon, everyone. We are from Group 10, and today we come up with an interesting case study from Chapter 11, named As the Blade Turns. First of all, let's see the summary of the case first. Next slide, please. The case talk about the revolving wings or RW company, which is a manufacturer of equipment for the renewable energy sector. Due to the offering of federal tax break to power company and recent expansion, RW company has a strong market for their fiberglass composite wind turbine blades, and they plan to enter the export market. At the end of the day, the company found that there are significant shortage in India, so the CEO decided to export their turbine blade there. Then he has assigned Darren, who is the transportation director of IW, to figure out how we can send the bread to India quickly and safely. Next. But in order to export the bread to India, they need to get it from the plant to the point of export first. And there are several challenges that they need to consider. First, which mode they should use. Second, which port is suitable. And the last one is about the route planning, which is one of the essential factors as they need to avoid urban rush hour, sharp curve, narrow lanes, and weight limit bridge. Otherwise, the bread will get damaged. Aside from this, they need to find high quality international carrier for getting the bread to India and make sure if the breads are delivered to the destination safely. And this is a brief story we have summarized. Next, let's look into the question.
So the first question is, what are the major problems and pitfalls that RW faces as it tries to grapple with its product line? Next. So the problem and pitfall that RW faces are the company gets federal tax breaks in its home market, thus making its product reasonably priced. However, this tax will not be able when the product are exported. The cost advantage will be lost. Therefore, it may make the company profits less than it should be. Furthermore, when going global, they ship the wind turbine blades from Kalamazoo to the international buyer's location quickly and without any damage. These blades can go up to 148 feet length and weigh around 12 tons each. Hence, transporting these blades will need special equipment and shipping containers. So the company has to find the best mode of transportation for shipping the wind turbine blades, which can ship quickly and have the best safety to prevent damage. Therefore, in order for the company to expand the product portfolio all the world, RW needs to find a way to solve such problem for smooth and successful business operations. Next.
Okay, for aside from what we have mentioned, there are still other risks for. Firstly, product loss, as the ship might face some period while delivering the product, so they possibly cast overboard turbine blade with 12 tons weight to save the ship, crew, and cargo from perils. Second, as their product is very large, with 148 feet, they might face product damage because there are few ports that able to load and stock the product properly. Thirdly, delivery might be delayed since they are struck with overburden load waste during the urban lunch hour and they might face extreme climate conditions during delivery across the country such as snow, ice condition, and hurricane. Fourthly, supply chain interrupt like labor disruption as there are some work-related dispute on unionized labor. It might affect a company operate and cannot provide enough product to the customer. And lastly, security breaches. As the might fail to protect freight in transit because of the failure to establish strong security practice and the failure of shipment control to protect in transit goods from harm. And next question.
So for the next question, what role will port play in the flow of turbine blade from the US to India? And next. So for the role of the port in the flow, first thing first, the role that port will play in this flow is to clear the custom. This process obtains permission from the country government through its custom authority to either take goods out of its territory or have a good enter its territory. Whether you choose air or sea flight, custom clearance is a mandatory process when you want to ship the goods internationally. The shippers must obtain the export clearance before the cargo can leave the port or the airport of origin. Upon arrival at the destination country, import clearance is required before flight can be delivered to the customer.
Okay, for about the second one is the prepare fresh and move fresh. There are transportation hubs and suitable transportation because of the port. It's will be a place to check various aspects from document to the other lines of the products. What is the condition before and after sending? And it is so the launching point of transport ship to the nearest and farthest route. Moreover, the turbine is 148 feet and weight 12 tons. It is necessary to transport it by boat for the least damage and the most convenient. It can also avoid congested route to stay. Therefore, when they use ship transport, port are equally important for transportation. There are group member. Do you have any question?
Yes, yes, I do. So what kind of which mode of transportation that you think it is best to be used to transport this turbine blade from US to India?
We think both.
Okay, both. Why?
Yep, because the Michigan, there's a river around Michigan, and it's easy because it's heavy and tall. The turbine, I mean, the turbine is huge and it's heavy, so I think they should use the boat to transportation.
But it's very long, right? Can it fit into a container?
But they want to make the least damage. I think if they use the container, I think they will make some damage to the turbine.
It cannot be fit in the container because it's 100 something
148.
48 feet long, right? And the container, the longest container is just 40 feet long, so it cannot fit into a container. Okay. Have you ever considered air transportation?
No,
No, why not?
I think it's too heavy for the air transportation.
12 tons? Is it too heavy?
Maybe.
Just 12 tons.
When,
Have you been
how
in
to
the
say
plane
it?
before?
When you want to transport some goods, you don't just only transport just one of them. You get what I mean, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, before we leave, do not forget the homework. The homework is due this Friday. I give you like 3 days to complete. It's not a lot. You can do it within half an hour anyway. So please do not forget the homework. And do you have any question before we leave? Any question at all?